Hey all, XR student here. Today I'm going to try to create a little drawing based off of a picture that I took. So after I finished my moth pillow, I took a picture of the moth on my body to just show how big it was and maybe try to be artsy or something. But I loved how it looked, how the antenna was almost a part of my eye, even though it actually wasn't in the picture, but the placement was really cool. I decided to tackle this picture with a watercolor painting, and then I severely messed up and hated what I did. At first, the painting was actually working pretty well. I think when I put the blue in the eyes and then I went to the hair, it just went downhill. I wound up scribbling it and crushing it and getting rid of it. Now, looking back at it, I could have fixed it, but I just needed to move on. And this is when I decided, why not try pen work? I'm pretty good with a pen or anything close to a pencil, and I figured I could probably get some good shading in with like cross-hatching and just experimenting with a pen, because I feel like I could get good control over it. Now looking back at the footage, it's kind of interesting that I kind of took the same technique, starting with the eyes, going to the eyebrows, and then working my way on different parts of the face. I think that's just my comfort zone, and it makes sense to me doing it this way. It's really important that I include every line that I can for the eyebrows, that you see each individual hair, because I decided not to use anything else besides my one pen. So it's solely paper and pen, and that's it. So the shading, the colors, it would all come from this pen. Pushing lightly or hard or multiple lines to make it thicker, it's all going to be this one material. And that's why it's important that I included the shading and any little detail possible to make this look better. This girl is a mystical being, whether she's a witch or a fairy. She just lives in the woods and she connects with nature. And that's no different for any of the insects that are there. This Luna moth is celestial and has magic powers, and when it lands on her, they're connected in this spiritual way, and that's why her hair is all about. And you could just tell there's power surging and that they're connected, whether the moth is taking over or it's her reaching her final state. Who knows, but you know that something's going down when you look at these two together. I've really fallen in love with wispy hair, like wind-blown hair. It kind of reminds me of how wavy curly hair could be, and as a curly-haired person, it's nice to see crazy wild hair. I really enjoyed making this piece, including all the individual hair pieces. Really was kind of meditative, and it really added way more to the piece. The more detail I added, the better it looked. A challenge with working with pen is that you can't erase it. It is what it is when you place it. But luckily I found out if I used my eraser on this particular ink, it actually lightened the pen stroke, so then I was able to create shading that way, as well as make a stroke not as intense if I did happen to mess up. And there are definitely mess ups in this piece, but I think so much is going on that you can't really tell as much, and there's so much to look at that who cares if there's a little mistake. The part that was the most important but hardest for me was the actual moth. It's the center of attention, it is the focal point. I wanted to make sure that this turned out well, and I wanted the same elements as my moth pillow to be in it. So that's why it has relatively the same shape, and it doesn't have the regular Luna moth feathery antenna. But this means I included all of the little stars. I didn't make it exactly the same as the fabric. I wanted to have little elements in there of some kind of celestialness. Not gonna lie, this piece helped build my confidence in my art making and my illustrative and character creation abilities. I want to practice more pen work like this, and I think I could do well if I kept going with it. My favorite part of this whole thing, besides the wispy hair, is actually the fur on the moth. I really wanted to go in detail with this and just have tons of lines so it looked like a little fluff ball, and I think I was able to accomplish that. Just going over and over, line after line. I went row by row to try making it look more natural and that it had some dimension to it. So I went in with my eraser to get rid of the pencil marks, and then I noticed that it lightened the pen like I mentioned in the beginning of this video. And I used it as a tool for me. It wasn't any hindrance. It helped me with permanence and non-permanence of this piece, so then I could really get the shading and the lines that I actually wanted. And if there was a smudge, no big deal. The wings were the worst part. I decided to go in one direction with a bunch of lines, and then I decided to cross-hatch on top of it, so then it showed that it was darker and a little bit more texture, just because some of the stars wouldn't show through if not, and I don't know, I feel like the wings are the downfall, even though it's like the most important part of the piece, because it's so focal. But later on in the video, you'll see that I added some wing veins, like the little lines that you see in a butterfly wing or a moth wing, and I think it tied the piece together way better. And the thing with me when I make art, if one part is not working, take a break from it, because then you'll either overwork it or make a really bad mistake with it. Sometimes just pop to a different part of the piece, or even do something different, maybe even just take a lunch break. That's sometimes what you need to step back and then look back at your piece to make it better. And now it's actually time for those close-up shots. And that's my completed piece. I'm so happy with this sketch, and I can't wait to work with more ink. And if you like this, check out my Instagram, TikTok, or Etsy. Consider subscribing, liking, or commenting. Can't wait to see you next week. Thanks. Bye.